So welcome back. I thought we would start with a little bit of painting on its own first. And we've just been deepening some colors and adding some shadows just for the process of doing the painting. But I'll tell you, there are some spots here that I really started to lose confidence with myself as I was doing this. And this is one right here. See, the mouse's fur isn't just straight gray. There's other colors in it. So I thought, I need some other base washes underneath to help that color start to pop and to even be able to add the color. And honestly, at this point, I thought, you know what? This looks horrible. This is not going to go well. But we'll see how that goes as the video goes on. I also am adding a more gray shade of blue to start to hint at shadows on the mouse itself, so that again, we remember it's a three-dimensional object, not a one-dimensional object. This painting is a great exercise for me, and I really enjoy doing it. I do want to remark by the end, if you like this painting, it will be available for sale on my Redbubble shop. I can also make prints of it, so if you would like to buy a print from me directly, just send me a comment, make a comment, we'll get in contact with each other, and I can do that. I am also willing to sell this original, but just to warn ahead of time, because I've found that people tend to underestimate the cost of buying an original painting, and of course I reserve the rights to sell prints still, but that's a whole separate conversation. So again, I'm continuing to build up the colors here, and this for me is very relaxing. Now I am, in the back of my head, I'm stressing about the way the mouse looks right now, and I'm thinking I could be doing all this other stuff and wasting my time. Obviously, if I already offered it for sale in conversation earlier, I don't think I wasted my time. But that's not really apparent right now. You're trying to add those little details and begin to build this up. So now we come back, and this is the finest brush I have, and I'm starting to add individual hairs onto the mouse. So this is another spot where I start to think, oh my goodness, I have really messed this painting up. But if you remember in the first video on this painting, I said I've learned from experience that when dealing with details, you need to commit wholeheartedly to those details. If you don't, if you only do it halfway, it is not going to work. If I stop the painting right here, this would look just absolutely horrendous, because there's not enough details to actually suggest fur, and there's too many details to ignore, if that makes any sense. So when you're doing detail in watercolor, you're only trying, or really any painting from my experience, you're really trying to suggest a level of detail that isn't actually there. You want to trick people's eyes into completing the painting on their own. And here, just continuing to add those pieces, continuing to add different colors of hair, so you can't really even tell. Even on the original, there's some variance between those particular strands of hair. Now what I've done here to again complete that illusion of detail is this is primarily just a wet brush that I'm going over those hairs with, and it's picking up any color it can pick up and just kind of muddying that. Now, usually when you use the term muddy in painting, it's a horrible term, so don't use that with someone officially. But in this case, I am really trying to get that to give those illusions of color. Now, the water I'm using also isn't just plain water. It is dirty water, actually. So there's a level of color automatically going down because that water isn't in its purest state and purest form. So adding the detail on the grass and other places, you have to remember your shadows and where the light's coming from. And this is not something I think I've really talked about very much, but it's something I'm trying to be mindful of, because where your light comes from dictates how those shadows are going to outline. So some of those blades of grass are a little darker down close to the mouth or closer to the mushroom because they're going to be shaded by the mouse or the mushroom. And then again, just like with the hair on the mouse, I'm creating the illusion of lots of blades of grass by painting quite a few, but not all of them. Again, it's a painting, not a photograph. Now, it's at this point, I know I have to put a little bit of white here, and I'm adding this detail, and you're about to see where I put some white down in a few moments on this paper. But I'm also starting to notice that some of those shadows aren't popping as much as they should. On those branches, I thought they were at a pretty good place, but as I brought up the color on the mouse and other places, I need to bring up it there too. Now, this is one of the great reveals when you start to see those little white pieces that you intentionally kept. But a key to remember, in nature, there is no pure white. And boy, do I believe there are some people who could learn that lesson on a separate score. But here, I add little shadows it's just a bluish shade onto those white spots. You don't see pure white in nature. You see reflective color. And sometimes that reflective color is very, very light. So when you use white in a painting, it's kind of used sparingly because it's not often a pure white. It's just a hint of white. But there is an exception, and it's a pretty satisfying one coming up right here, where that touch of white on the mouse's eyes just makes the mouse seem more alive. And of course, then I realized my paper is just too white. So don't do this. Don't do what I did and add your wash afterwards. I'm happy to say it does turn out okay, but I'm just putting a light green wash down in the background because it's too white around it. It's just too much of a false air about it that I wanted to ground it more in reality. A mouse is close to the ground. A mouse is not going to be up in the air unless you're going through great strides with the camera angle or things of that nature. And where I've done animal paintings before and it's all white background, that's not what I wanted here. I felt like it needed that color in the background. I also forget a number of particular details, which is the mouse whiskers that come out. So I don't actually get those painted on, but here in a moment I'm going to be taking it off the paper and you'll see it on there. So I want to remind you, if you want to purchase this painting, it's available on my Redbubble shop. I can make prints, and you can even purchase the original if you so choose. But I'm glad that you came with me on this journey, and I hope you found it relaxing and that you enjoyed the product of this painting.